And we are live with another edition of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. I am your host for this evening, Sean Grice, aka Magic Man, and happy to be joined by Courtside Lakers, Mr. Henry Hill. Henry, welcome back to the show. Happy to have you back on, man. And unfortunately, this isn't a losing effort. The Lakers drop a game in Salt Lake City, 132 to 125 to the Utah Jazz. Henry, we saw a spirited effort from the Lakers in the first 18 minutes of the game. Managed to look pretty spry in that first quarter. Unfortunately, even shooting 50% from the field and over almost 45% from three, um, gave up a ton of fouls. And we can get into a larger discussion about that later. But essentially, the Jazz got almost 40 free throws tonight. Henry, 39 made. Ah, it was an awful game. After the half, the Lakers were up 67 to 64 at halftime. Eventually dropped 132 to 125. Welcome back, Henry. And what did you think about the effort in the second half?
Yeah, thank you, Sean. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm fortunate enough to catch the second half with you guys on playback.tv /Lakers Fast Break. Uh, First half was good, as you said, but the second half just disappointing. You know, it's kind of been a trend. Last year, these were the games that they would win. Instead, this year it's just been the opposite. I mean, you guys have harped on it enough. I don't need to get into it. It's just coaching matters in this league, of course. Talent outweighs all in the NBA, I feel. But when it comes to fourth quarter execution, timeouts, coaching does matter. And it's just unfortunate our talent is not getting us the wins that they were towards the end of last year into the playoffs. And I don't know, I'm going to keep rooting for the team, but I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but it does not look good.
No, it does not look good, Henry. And unfortunately, it was a combination of the Lakers being victimized by ticky tack fouls on the refs. They were excitable tonight, especially the second half. Basically, slowed the game to a snail's pace. Utah shot incredibly well from the free throw line. Henry, 36 of 39, almost 93%. That was the difference in the game. The Lakers got to the line 24 times. Utah got 39, and Utah outscored the Lakers by a plus 16 margin in that second half. And it was terrible. It was terrible. Again, it and as we welcome in Joe Soro into the pod as well, Joe. Thank you very much for joining us. It was just a case of kind of a similar theme to last year that I've noticed in the past, I don't know, 2 weeks. Darvin Ham is finding new ways to blow games. And Joe, what did you make of this lackluster effort from the coaching staff?
Well, I guess Rui played 19 minutes tonight when he probably should have played at least 30. And it was a combination of everything. It was a combination of just discombobulation of just lineups being staggered, not really having a pulse on momentum, AD getting the ball again in terrible positioning, refs playing like complete dickwads that they are. But a good team can usually play through stupid refereeing. Unfortunately, our team isn't one of them. And an overall just lack of any intelligence when it comes to basketball. The Lakers are a pathetic, depressing basketball team based off of the talent that they have, which is what makes it more frustrating. You have talent on this team. This is not, it's not the Charlotte Hornets. This is a talented team that looks like they're not talented, which is worse. Going into Utah and playing as close as they were should have done something, but this is just not a team that can handle any bit of intelligent execution. It's just not. One of the more frustrating teams I've ever seen play basketball, uh, and it just needs to stop. If anything, just get rid of this guy and just let Phil Handy let them die with Phil Handy at the helm. I rather watch them die with him than watch Darvin Ham coach another basketball game. He is just abhorrent is the only word I can think of. And this, when you look at basketball teams in general, there are times where we may think and say that the coaching doesn't matter. It matters in every game. It matters in every game, actually, especially in the NBA. And we're getting a good dose of that right now. And it's been there for a while, guys. It's been there by the verbiage of excuses. When you hear your coach make excuses, you have a leaderless, dead team. It's very hard for people like us, especially you and I, Sean, who are closely focused on guys like Nick Saban and the Bill Belichick's of the world, where no matter how terrible their losses are, you never hear them say anything bad except for themselves. And whether it's rhetoric, whether it's whatever it is, it's just a leaderless team with leaderless players. I don't know when it's officially going to die. Maybe after the trade deadline in a month, because there's really no one player that could solve this problem anyways. And even if you were to get that player, you probably have to gut what little depth you have on the team to get that guy in. That guy would still have to demand to go to LA. They're not going to just send that guy to you. And there really isn't anybody out there anyways. We've talked about this. Trae Young's like the only third star that you could imagine that might be in the trade works in Atlanta. But then who else? I don't see the Heat trading Jimmy Butler. I don't see excuse me, Dallas trading Kyrie Irving. You're not going to get any of those guys that would likely maybe make a run. But we, for the sake of energy, for the sake of positiveness, in some cases it is warranted, we overvalued this team based off of what we already knew was a major deficiency, which is the leadership on this team, especially at the head coaching position, was below a D, not above the D, below even. And it gets worse and worse as the season goes on.
We knew it was a void. We knew it was a void. It just seems like it's gotten worse. I didn't know we could go from a void to a black hole, but that's what it feels like. Maybe it's not like that in the locker room, but optically, gentlemen, it feels like there is just this gaping black hole as far as leadership and somebody willing to move some furniture around and get in someone's face. And Darvin Ham isn't that guy. He is not. I don't think he's prepared for these types of situations, Henry. I just don't. I don't think he even has a small amount of knowledge when it comes to conflict resolution and trying to dish out some harsh realities to people, because nobody is really willing, at least from what we see publicly, to call him out, right? And that may be a case of not wanting to rock the boat as far as your own self-preservation is concerned, right? Because you are an NBA player and there are 29 other teams, and you kind of don't want to have that reputation as being a problem, yet he's the problem. There are a lot of problems with the Lakers right now. I call it the pickle matrix, because it just seems that there are several different pickles that they have to overcome. But he is at the head of the Titanic. He is the captain of this ship right now, and it feels like Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka are in the band. They're just keep playing, keep everybody calm, keep playing, and something's got to come to a head here because here's an interesting stat for tonight, gentlemen. Even though the Utah Jazz had 15 more free throws than the Lakers, they only committed 3 less personal fouls. The Lakers committed 23 personal fouls. The Utah Jazz committed 20. Yet the disparity in the free throws was obvious. And that comes from coaching. We really saw Will Hardy outcoach Darvin Ham. And that's my biggest concern right now, Henry, is that every matchup that we go into, I don't think it's a talent problem, but I worry that when you get into the fourth quarter, he's just not prepared to battle wits with another coach. I don't think I'm off base with that, but I could be. What are your thoughts?
No, no, you're not. I don't want to be that guy, but I have to be that guy. You're not wrong. He is, I can't name a coach he is better than and on any team, honestly, any head coach. Any matchup we go up against, I don't think we have the coaching advantage. It's just up to our talent. Sometimes LeBron, sometimes AD. Like for example, guys, I just looked at the box score. We were watching the game, so it's like a lot of moving parts, right? On playback, we're talking, discussion, and whatnot. If I told you D'Angelo Russell had 39 points today, and LeBron is out, and AD had, although shot poorly and turned the ball over a lot, had a triple double, you would think we would won this game, right? But as Joe mentioned, Rui has 19 minutes. Christian Wood, I believe, had 20 minutes. While they're really productive, it's just the 40 games or 41 games in at this point, basically half the season, we are he's still experimenting. While Hardy benched THT, has his rotations locked down, and they've won now it would be 13 of the last 17 games. So overall, you're right. Some people are just not meant to be a coach, and this gentleman was an assistant coach for 10 plus years. He's just better off in that role. We made a massive mistake. We gave him an extension. When I say we, obviously, I mean the Lakers. I don't see a way out of this. It's just the Titanic, as you say, it's just going down. There's just no way we can get out of this. I truly feel lost, and each game just gets worse.
Unfortunately, I agree with you. And again, welcome to Lakers Fast Break on YouTube. Unfortunately, the Lakers fall 132 to 125. And my question to you, Joe, is this. We obviously know that Ham is an inferior head coach in the NBA. And you've often talked about how some guys, and Henry alluded to it, are just better at being number two. The Lakers as a brain trust, and I'm using that term loosely right now. Jeannie Buss, the Ramby, and Rob Pelinka made a conscious decision to give Darvin Ham that pat on the back and the vote of confidence. Now, normally, Joe, you and I have been watching sports for decades. Normally, when a team gives a coach a vote of confidence, that's almost a sign of like the black spot that a pirate would receive, right? The black spot means death. And in this case, it looks like it's the opposite, that Jeannie is digging in her heels and they're going to forge ahead with this unmitigated disaster of a head coach that we have in Darvin Ham. Um, there is no hiding anymore, Joe. They made the wrong decision and they're going to dig their heels in. And what do you expect over the next few weeks?
Uh, Boy, that's a good question. It's hard to be critical right now without being vicious.
Because yeah, Joe, I I'm just gonna say this right off the bat. If they're not gonna fire Darvin Ham before or during the All-Star break, he's here to stay.
They're not going to do that. They're not going to pay him the extra years on the contract.
The prognosis of this team is worse than what's going on right now. The Lakers are in for a Mr. Dolan, New York Knicks owner type run. And we had discussed LeBron coming, and Henry, you had mentioned playing with a bunch of kids in 2018. And LeBron didn't really have a reason to come to the Lakers at that time. There was noise about him wanting to have a Hollywood career. There's no such thing as a Hollywood career, folks. Those who have Hollywood control have control, and there's no one, not a LeBron, not Michael Jordan, no one, God, no one controls that industry that they don't want anybody to control. It doesn't matter how big LeBron is. So, plus you have to perform, and in that business, a lot of people don't think acting is easy because they see a couple of yahoos do it every now and then. Yeah, not going to happen. LeBron came to LA because he's the self-proclaimed king, and his branding looks better in purple and gold versus staying in Quicken Loans in the middle of a industrial hellhole that is Cleveland. By the way, congratulations, clowns. You and your Myles Garrett. You guys ate shit good tonight. I like we all knew you would. So TJ Watt forever. It's irrelevant whether Darvin Ham gets fired between now and the deadline or not. This team has no guts and no identity. They are cowards from every sense of the word. Maybe not all the players like LeBron and AD, but the organization does. They're cowards. They have no idea what they're doing. They have no resolution to it. They have fed you rhetoric like everybody else. All the BS social rhetoric, all the company lines. This is what cowards do, folks, to hide away from who they really are. Because at the end of the day, when it matters is when they turn into who they really are. And they try to do it in secret. But for those who know, those who can see through that BS, we already know who they are. Mr. PPPs, all you PPP people back there trying to take money away from people who actually do need it and then returning it once you get caught. Taking away Jerry West's seats. And, the first word I think of is mother effers. If it wasn't for Jerry West, your ass wouldn't exist right now. Lakers would have been sold a long time ago. Summer of 96 kept you all in your position, Genie Bus, because Jerry West is a goddamn genius. Okay, Derek Fisher, Shaquille O'Neal, and Kobe beat Bryant in one summer. And then the following year, Rick Fox, Robert Horry after he threw a towel in Danny Ainge's face. Jerry West made all that happen. Otherwise, you guys be sitting not only on your thumbs, but on cactus, yapping about how cool you are in Palm Springs. So LeBron gave him a little bit of a reprieve. Thank you, LeBron, for coming to LA and at least letting us put another banner up there. I got to hand it to him. He didn't have to come to LA. But, man, if this thing goes out the way it's going out, get ready for a decade-long hellhole, Laker fans. It's coming. I'm sorry, nuclear winter, I should say.
Yeah, I think it's going to be kind of a Cormac McCarthy on the road situation. Gentlemen, interestingly enough, after 40 games last year, the Lakers' record was 19-21. The record after 40 games this year, 19-21. Now,
The name of mediocrity.
and that sums up Darvin Ham as a coach.
Yep.
Below mid, not even mid, below mid. And Henry, I want to get your thoughts on this. So there have been some sprinkles, some Easter eggs that we've seen this year that have shown us that there is a tension in the locker room that you can't even put a fork in. The beef,
Hmm.
I think the beef is so big right now. So Dave McMenamin reported this a couple weeks ago that LeBron James has never been as frustrated in a season as he has been this year. And he's usually not prone to giving away his poker face, but this year has been a completely different situation. And we can also point to the athletic article as well, Henry.
Yeah.
6 different Lakers have professed their dislike for their lack of communication as far as their roles are concerned this year. And let's go through the 6 because I named them on playback and I can name them right now. Austin Reeves, Rui Hashimura, D'Angelo Russell, Jackson Hayes, Christian Wood, and one LeBron James. All 6 of those guys you can set your watch to. They're the ones that have a definite problem. And there, to me, Henry, there are only 3 guys who are in Darvin Ham's camp. Jared Vanderbilt, Cam Reddish, and Torian Prince. Now, Torian Prince is effective less than 30 minutes, Henry. We know this. It's been documented through his career, whether he's been in Atlanta, Brooklyn, Minnesota, or now Los Angeles. You play him longer than 30 minutes, he becomes ineffective as both a defender and a shooter. That being said, we also have an issue with Cam Reddish and Jared Vanderbilt being clunkers on offense. It's almost as if when those two are on the floor, it's 3 on 5. It's three on
Yeah.
five. And there's no way you can win in the NBA by only having 3 competent offensive players on the court. It doesn't matter what kind of system you play or what kind of bells and whistles or throwing everything but the kitchen sink at an issue. There is a fundamentally lack of trust that these players have. And you know what? I don't care that some people in the comments section now are just being apathetic. And you know what? I'm not going to call you out by name, but you know who you are. You are just being completely apathetic with the fact that we keep honing in on the fact that Darvin Ham is the issue and Darvin Ham needs to go. Well, you know what? That will not stop because the players themselves have already come out and said it, Henry. This man does not communicate well with his players, and it's going to become an even bigger issue. I don't think people really understand what's going on here, Henry.
Yeah, no, they don't. And what is Darvin Ham's strong suit? He's a player's coach, right? How can you be a player's coach if 6 different sources, which you named, I could probably say that's pretty accurate, have gone publicly to the Athletic and said that they're frustrated with their role? That I just don't understand. And it one thing that's interesting to me that I want to spin back to you. You think Jared Vanderbilt is likes Darvin Ham, is in his good graces? I personally kind of see it differently, and allow me to quickly explain. I think Cam Reddish kind of came in and is Torian Prince and Cam Reddish are like Darvin Ham's number one guys, number 1 and 2 guys. I feel like Jerry Vanderbilt is kind of upset that Cam Reddish has just slid in and took his role essentially. And for what though? Like by all means, Cam Reddish he had a great 2 week stretch in November as like when was November at this point 2 3 months ago, and he revived his career, right? He now we know what is going to keep him in the NBA. defense, and that's it. He cannot produce on offense. But for the past month and a half, 2 months, he hasn't been producing. So it's interesting to me that you mentioned Vanderbilt being someone that may like Darvin Ham, because I feel like he took his starting spot. Cam Reddish did. And uh, Vanderbilt's playing very spotty minutes now, like 10 minutes, one game, 20 minutes, one game. And it's just, I feel like his confidence is lost. Like he gets the ball, he doesn't even look to score anymore. I was on Twitter roaming, I saw highlights from last year. And injury may have to do with it because of the heel injury that he had. But I'm assuming if you're playing, you're healthy, right? You're healthy enough to play. He was grabbing rebounds on the defensive end, pushing the pace, passing normally, getting the ball like with his left hand, always going left, right, but still like making layups here and there. Now he doesn't even look to score at all. And don't even get me started on the jump shot. That just looks horrible. I don't even think, who's our shooting coach? Do we have a shooting coach, guys? Is it some sort of celebrity trainer that we got that trains the Kardashians? Like,
Amari Carroll, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like Damari Carroll's our
Still
shooting
wondering
coach.
why he's what he does, except
It's just
wear a weave on his head.
exactly, like it's just we were talking about this. It's just he has just Ham just has his friends. No one there to challenge him. No one there to outsmart him. There is no uh, like he doesn't want to look over his shoulder and be like, "Oh, this guy's gonna come take my job." Type. Like it's just a bunch of friends coaching. It reminds me of Luke Walton's staff when Luke Walton was here. It was him and his bunch of buddies from like Arizona coaching with them. And obviously LeBron came and said, "I cannot have this guy here." So they wrote it out and then they got rid of him. But overall, I don't know. I don't see a strong suit in him. I'm sorry. I know the chat's saying we're harsh on Ham, but who else can I blame? I mean, the coach is part of the main reason why they're playing this bad. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
I mean, like, let's be frank here. 2 years ago, the Lakers had a roster with the following players: Kent Bazemore, Avery Bradley, Wayne Ellington, DeAndre Jordan. Like, you cannot tell me that this team is not heavy on talent. They are. This roster is very talented. Depth wise, not so much. I mean, we've kind of seen that that was kind of overblown. A lot of the Laker insiders and PR was able to kind of pump up the depth. It's not as strong as it was originally perceived. But you are not going to convince me that this team is not talented enough to compete at a top four, top five seed. And Henry, great point on Vando. I mean, I think, two things can be true at once. Definitely. I mean, it's obvious that, Ham has kind of usurped um, Vando's role as Ham's teacher's pet. That being that being said, you're right. I mean, and Joe and Gerald and a lot of our great subs in the comment section have mentioned that it seems Vanderbilt has just gotten worse as an offensive player, and that's a bold statement because he had a myriad of flaws already. A lot of boils, like the biblical character Job, uh, as far as offensive prowess is concerned. But yeah, I mean, it just seems like his confidence is not even in the gutter; it's in the sewer.
stop.
Um, but you're not going to convince me that another coach with it's like tort, okay, tort law. So one person in the same position as another will do a different job. You're not going to convince me that somebody like Terry Stott or somebody like Jay Wright or somebody like Mike Budenholzer, by the way, who is Ham's mentor, would be able to get more out of this roster than him. You're not going to convince me of that, Joe. And we've talked about it before. Who's out there that you could get? Well, at this point in time, Joe, you've already mentioned it. Let Phil Handy do it. Let somebody else take the reins here and point you in the direction that, yeah, they would likely do a better job. What are your thoughts on that, Joe?
Uh, Doing a better job is within reason of comparing it to the fact that the one that's calling the shots now is so inept. It would maybe have a slight uptake, but not by much. At some point, the teams would adjust and the euphoria of that change would dwindle down. I'm not going to put it all on the Lakers. It's just the culture of things in general, just a cowardly way of doing things. Very few confident players, very entitled to the point where they might not even think they're doing anything wrong. It's the other guy. Just overall competitive cowards. I was trying to look for the right word and phrase. I don't want to just call someone a coward. It's sports, but it's competitive cowardice. None of these guys really care about winning. Watching Jared Vanderbilt try to dribble a basketball is an embarrassment. The fact that this is a professional basketball player who can't dribble is just horrifying to me. And then you see somebody like Keontae George, who was picked one spot before the Lakers last year in the draft, and then looking at Jaime, Triple J Jaime in Miami play as well as he has, yet we have a guy that can't even tie his shoes when he's playing. This is an embarrassment.
I
Like
mean, you're right, Joe. I mean, Keontae George can play de
he
facto.
looked like a guy who's been playing in the NBA for 5 years.
Keontae George could be a de facto point guard for the Utah
not two,
Jazz, and
five.
if he was
He
on the
knew what he was
Lakers,
doing.
he'd be the third best facilitator.
He looked like he knew what he was doing 100% of the time. When the hell do rookies look like that? How about Will Hardy? Where was this guy? Who evaluated him? Oh, that's right, Danny Ainge. Okay, makes sense. He's from Boston.
And look at Joe. Look at a strong coaching staff: Ime Udoka, Joe Mazzulla, Will Hardy. All three of those guys from that Boston staff are all head coaches in the NBA.
And it makes sense. We've discussed how this Boston team is much to admire. The only problem is they're wearing the Boston uniforms. I would have cheered for them to win if it wasn't for that. I actually do like Jaylen Brown and obviously Tatum.
I don't. I can't root for that bunch of heathens up there in the Northeast.
Yeah, you have every right to. Again, it's still a Boston jersey.
But regardless, Joe, it's to your point. It's to your point, and it's to others' points.
It's because
assistant coaches matter in the NBA.
I don't think they do in my book.
I do.
I don't care. I don't really care two craps about assistant managers. I only care when they're the head coaches. You to have some guys that turned into really good coaches. The Lakers are run by what I initially had apologized for because I'm a moron, because I fall in line with the decency sometimes, which I'm against most of the time, but I do it because it takes too much out of people a lot of times. It becomes hard to listen to the negative, even though it's warranted. But those days are about done, folks. You're going to see some really, really harsh things coming the rest of the way. The Lakers are being run down by people who have no business running a basketball team at this point. I think they've been able to. And if you don't believe me, you can go listen to Magic Johnson's presser when he quit. You don't need to listen to me. Go listen to Magic. And we all know who Magic is. Not Magic Man in our show. I'm talking about the other Magic. So but Kobe vouched for Pelinka. Well, no one's perfect, folks. I don't think Kobe should have vouched for Pelinka. I think the Lakers going downhill. And I think he suggested Pelinka because he trusts him. Problem is, Pelinka's not a general manager of an NBA team. He's an agent, and he should have stayed there. He got lucky in 2020 having LeBron show up and having the best season they had together. Everybody stayed healthy, and then he went ahead and unfortunately listened to LeBron on something he probably shouldn't have listened to, which is trying to get a third guy on this team, and it ended up really costing the Lakers everything at that point. It was a disastrous decision. Regardless if we supported it or not, it was a disastrous decision that the Lakers look like will never recover from.
That was to match Brooklyn, right?
Correct. It was to match Brooklyn because they were fearing after Durant almost took Brooklyn to wherever they were going to take them. Apparently, if you had just made that three, right? If his toe wasn't so big, then they were worried. Oh man, now they got Harden and Kyrie. Shoot, we got to get it. We got to get reinforcements. So everybody reacted to that, and it ended up destroying the Brooklyn Nets. And James Harden ended up ending the Laker title run here with AD and LeBron. I just imagine that where that's the end. And of course, Jeannie and Rob and a little bit of LeBron. You got to blame LeBron a little bit because word is he pushed it. Well,
they signed up on it. Yep.
Here we go. AD did not, from what I heard. AD wanted to run it back. He might have agreed with it after, but that's who AD is. AD is going to go with the flow. But I remember distinctively. He said, let's run it back after 2021, after you'd gotten injured, and we missed out, and they should have listened to him. But water under the bridge at this point.
I just the point I'm making is that strong personalities aren't intimidated by smart people, good people being brought into their organization or their group and being able to find success. When the Dallas Mavericks smoked the Los Angeles Lakers in 2011, it was a result of three people. It wasn't just Rick Carlisle. Rick Carlisle had Dwayne Casey. He had Terry Stotts. He wasn't intimidated that Terry Stotts was a better offensive coach than him. And he didn't care that Dwayne Casey had as good as chops defensively as him. And Steve Kerr wasn't intimidated by bringing in Mike Brown. And Frank Vogel lived with the fact that Jason Kidd was on the bench with him. And so was Lionel Hollins. It just matters more. Darvin Ham is an insecure guy. That's why he can't be a leader, Joe. That's the big issue here. He's insecure. And he is high, like we were saying, going with the nepotistic problem. He brings in LeBron's guy and Chris Yen from the Cavs. He brings in his own guy that he knew from Atlanta, DeMar Carroll. Phil Handy is already there. These are not strong personalities. Phil Handy was never going to be a head coach in the NBA. Yet some people threw his name out there, like just on a whim, as a guy. Oh, maybe Phil Handy's a head coach. Nope, he's a developmental coach.
And that's the issue.
DeMar Carroll doesn't have the chops to be a head coach, Joe.
And that most aren't. Most
aren't. But you can bring in.
There's an adjustment. There's an adjustment that a coach needs to identify very, very quickly. Very quickly. And sometimes it could be as simple as a pick and roll option at a certain time during the game. It could be that. But you have to pay attention. You have to pay attention. Now, you might be asking yourselves, why does a nobody on some podcast on YouTube know that? Why? I'll tell you why. Because I pay the mother effing attention. Been watching this thing a long time. Well, Joe, maybe the pressure of the game is fogging his vision. That's, by the way, that's a total BS question. That's me asking it. You're right. You're right. That might be it. And guess what? Maybe you shouldn't be coaching in the NBA then. Maybe if that were to happen to me with the pressure, then I shouldn't be a coach in the NBA. However, I have a lot of confidence, and I'm not insecure, Sean. I'd like to think if I grew up in the NBA culture, I think I would have been a hell of a coach. I could definitely motivate. Probably wouldn't have lasted in this era unless I had a Tim Duncan type or a Steph Curry type that could kind of take my barbs and then everyone else has to fall in line. I get that. More like a Rondo. But the point is, there are deficiencies in decision making in every aspect of this team from top to bottom. And who is going to take anyone seriously? You're telling me that if Darvin Ham all of a sudden decides to discipline players, they're going to go like this and go, they're going to look at him and laugh at him. Those days, that day has passed. It's over. He's lost all credibility. He needs to go. The Lakers are going to struggle to let him go because then they have to pay him for 3 more years to do nothing or hope somebody takes over, right? Which anyone who hires Darvin Ham to coach anything, let alone head coach, deserves to lose. It's that simple. I wouldn't trust him with an AAU team, let alone being an assistant coach on an NBA team. He knows nothing of coaching. He knows nothing.
And a perfect
Absolutely
example,
nothing.
And a perfect example of that tonight, Joe, illustrated again. We used the example last game of after a TV timeout, not his own timeout, because we know he's got this fetish about not calling timeouts. It's almost a phobia, like really with him. That being said, after a TV timeout, he decides that of the 5 guys on the court, he's going to put 15 on Kevin Durant. Austin Reeves on Kevin Durant. 6'5" versus almost 7 feet, tall drink of water, one of the greatest scorer of his generation. You're going to put Austin Reeves, who gets killed in isolation situations. When you have Jared Vanderbilt standing in a corner watching Grayson Allen, and Darvin Ham doesn't have the damn awareness to know that that's a bad idea, and not one of his assistants has the gall or the balls to tap him on the shoulder and say, "Yo, Darvin, I don't think that's a good idea, man. I don't think that's a good idea." Tonight, Joe, Darvin Ham decided to bench Rui Hashimura when Rui was cooking tonight. He was actually within the flow of the game, getting his, and he chose Skylar Mays, a bona fide G League player, over Rui Hashimura. Darvin Ham has a problem with Rui Hashimura. I'm going to say it again.
Yeah.
There is a personality difference that Darvin Ham does not like Rui. It's personal now. I don't care what he says. He has a personal issue with Rui Hashimura, and that's why he's not playing him.
They don't get along.
Somebody needs to call this out for what it is.
Do you guys know? I know plus minus isn't the greatest stat, but which Laker has the highest plus minus out of all of them this season?
I think it's Rui.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Rui. Rui is our best plus minus player.
Yep, he is. He is. Do you know who's second?
Off the top of my head, I want to say it's definitely not AD.
No.
It's not LeBron. I think
No, it's not the Stars.
It would be, I want to say, is it Jackson Hayes?
No. It's D'Lo.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? Honestly, that doesn't surprise me, considering the fact that he's busting his hump, at least offensively. But we've got again, Henry, the pickle matrix, right? Cam Reddish is unplayable offensively. Jared Vanderbilt is unplayable offensively. Both Austin Reeves and D'Lo are unplayable defensively. They just get picked on constantly. We have a lot of one-dimensional players, and at this point in time, if AD has an off night like he did tonight, 5 of 21, yeah, great, 10 assists, but you basically were just off on your jumpers. And if he was shooting just a tick better, the
Yep.
Lakers would have won. But the fact of the matter is, even if AD has a great game, like 30 plus, there's nobody who picks him up. So
But
there's nobody who picks up AD when he's playing well or he's playing awful.
well,
And
that's the most troubling thing to me this year. AD has been playing well. He has been playing at an all NBA level. So has LeBron. And I know he's 39, so I can't expect them to be all world LeBron, obviously. But they've both been fairly healthy as well. So that's the most troubling thing to me. That we've had good health from our stars. They're both playing well. I would argue Anthony Davis is the best player on the team this year. And they are barely winning. And they're losing
it's
more than they're
troubling
winning.
across the board that your leader in plus minus is Rui Hashimura, who Darvin Ham has a personal vendetta against,
Yeah,
and D'Lo is also your second plus minus leader, and again, Darvin Ham is willing to give the quick out for D'Lo
so for
or
sure.
Rui, both of them, even if they are struggling. And by the way, he's willing to give Jared Vanderbilt, Cam Reddish, and Torian Prince the benefit of the doubt, even if they are struggling.
That is
That
true.
is bad coaching.
That is
That is
bad.
just
You wanna know an interesting quote, post-game quote? Tell me this isn't a clear sign of someone that's frustrated. So D'Angelo Russell commented on playing alongside Austin Reeves. And he said, last year we got a lot of credibility in the short stint we had together. He's like, when you put us out there together, it works. And I'm paraphrasing, but that was the gist of what he said. So clearly the players are frustrated. It's not just us. I mean, we're not the naive idiots just wasting a Saturday night complaining all the time. The players themselves see it. They're frustrated. They're probably communicating to him, and Lord knows where that's going. He has no clue what he's doing. I'm sorry. I have to. He has zero idea on how to be a head guy. He's just not a leader. It's just okay. It's okay. Some people aren't born to be leaders. You can't lead them. He's not a leader of men. It is what it is. We made a massive mistake. I don't even know how we're going to get out of this, but it's going to be bad. And I was really hoping this was the year that the final push with LeBron and AD. But it's bad. It's terrible. It's horrible. I did not expect this at all. At
no one
all.
did.
Um, hmm, I'm not gonna lie. I sort of did wonder if this could happen. It just there was still
But
a
what made you
problem there.
think about it? The coach?
Yeah, yeah. The coach, when they tune you out, that's it. It's over.
Yeah.
And NBA is brutal when it comes to coaching. It's hockey takes a like hockey's known as the league where they'll fire you within the first 2 weeks of a season. But with all due respect to hockey, it doesn't touch how bad it is when a team tunes out a head coach there. Just simply because hockey doesn't have what it used to have, which was the star power that they used to carry when they had the Yzermans and the Messiers and the Gretzky's. Like, you don't have those guys anymore. I know Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby and those guys, they did their best to carry the star hockey player as much as they could. But 90s, when I was growing up, hockey had, to me, equal footing with stars in the NBA in a lot of ways. They were just amazing. Like Mark Messier
Joe,
was
it's almost mirror
it,
images today. It's the inmates run the asylum. It's
and to
Oh,
some degree,
these kids who are 24, 25 years old
and
have a
it's always
shortage.
been
Have
like
a
that, Sean,
hold
in the
on.
NBA.
Well,
It's always
I
been like that. It's
I think
worse
the
now.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
It's worse now because the stars who made a difference back in the 90s and 2000s, they were so astronomically popular and great. Jordan, Pippen, Shaq, Kobe. You didn't look at anything beyond that. You just looked at, hey, man, these guys they're cashing the check. They're yapping, right? I mean, shoot, we've been talking about this Chicago thing with Thelma Krause.
Oh, yeah.
That the reason why that happened was because of what happened to those guys by management. And it comes down to this. We can sit here and blame this or blame that. It's the job of the ownership to not allow that to happen, or at least make sure that things still progress. That's your job. And unfortunately, back then, it was one of those things where the real menace in that whole thing was Jerry Reinsdorf. Jerry Reinsdorf, all Jerry Reinsdorf had to do was make an exception to one of the greatest players he'll ever have in Scottie Pippen and just give the guy an extension. He deserves it. Okay. You sat on his contract knowing, Scottie, you shouldn't sign his contract. How do you tell someone at that time, especially with the contracts not being what they are, you shouldn't take this contract because your market value is going to go? He doesn't know what market value is. He's an NBA player. He's playing basketball. What did you do? You created this rift that ended up destroying everything in your path. And it trickled down to everything. And fast forward to now where it's not that drastic with the Lakers. There's more support here. But you have people who have no business making business decisions in basketball, making these decisions. And we're here trying to battle this positive, negative of it, right? But the reality is it's BS. It's BS. Jeannie does not know what she's doing. Rob Pelinka is not a GM of an NBA team. They're not in those positions. Even Magic Johnson shouldn't have gotten his position. He doesn't have the work ethic for that. I'm not saying he doesn't have work ethic.
Not only that, Joe, he is stupid on the court. He is stupid. The data is clear, okay? He is not a good defensive coach either. Look, 70 to 75% of NBA teams today play drop coverage, okay? It's obvious. Look, there are certain schemes that you can use offensively to counter drop coverage. It's similar to what teams had to adjust to with zone in the early 2000s, Joe. Here's an interesting stat for you. Only the Wizards and Pistons give up more wide open three-point shots in drop coverage than the Lakers. And that's with Anthony Davis. And Joe, I remember you and a lot of other Laker fans and just outsiders were basically saying that, this is the year, if Anthony Davis wants it, that he could become a defensive player of the year. That's not going to happen because Darvin Ham has refused to play to even Anthony Davis's strengths as a defender. Even with Anthony Davis, you're perennially giving up wide open threes on drop coverage.
I feel like that's their scheme. They like giving up wide open threes, which is ridiculous.
That's interesting. You guys bring that stat up. The Lakers, before this game, had allowed the most wide open threes.
Because Darvin Ham refuses to adjust to his drop coverage. He won't play scram.
42% clip on those makes. So you're talking about 362 attempts. The next closest team was the Jazz at 325. So you have a team that has lost games because of this particular defensive prowess, if you will, because for some weird reason he thinks let me do what my old boss did, right? That's what his old boss did.
Yep,
And
that was his
Budenholzer,
scheme.
well,
That was.
Budenholzer isn't even coaching anymore right now, and he's a champ. The guy won a championship 3 years ago. And he doesn't have a job. Why? Stubbornness.
Like,
Folks, if you learn anything in life,
I mean,
if you're going to learn
good.
anything in life, learn that stubbornness will get you. Now, if you want to be stubborn and you get the results, it's not stubborn then. It's a virtue.
I wonder what the Lakers shoot on open threes, what their percentage is.
I will look that up for you, Henry. Definitely.
But you're talking about the Lakers, number one, the Jazz, the Celtics, the Spurs, Mavericks, and Bulls in that top spot. There's really no indication of bad or good or not doing well. They're all over there. There's bad teams, and then there's middle teams, and then there's really good teams.
That's right.
There's really, how do you explain that? How do you combat that? Well,
I think it's the definition of insanity, Joe. Doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result. That's what I'm going to call Darvin Ham's defensive scheme. Insane. Insane in the membrane. Constantly playing drop coverage. Look, if I had Brook Lopez and Giannis Antetokounmpo, I would play drop coverage too.
Wait, so you're saying LeBron guarding Grayson Allen in the corner while Austin Reeves guards Kevin Durant is not a good defensive scheme? Do I hear that correctly?
Yes, Henry. Definitely not. I would not advise doing that at all.
That's it. You're hired. You're the new coach. But we're only going to give you a 2-year contract, because you don't have Laker ties.
But see, exactly, Henry. But see, again, in our comments section, we have certain people, and I love everybody in our comments section. The fact is that basically what you're watching is a man who doesn't know what to do when things go awry. He doesn't have a plan B.
You know what he does?
You need a contingency plan. That's why they call it a plan B. When things go,
he blames. He never takes accountability.
Accountability.
We need to defend better and
so
fight through adversity better. Like, what coach does that?
Only him, Henry. He is the only coach I've seen in the past probably 15 years who basically blames everybody but himself. And we were talking about it. If we know this, why doesn't he? Like, for example, one of the most integral parts of drop coverage is a contingency defense. So a lot of teams, including Miami, Spo, and you have Missoula in Boston, play something called scram. What's scram? Scram is a defensive scheme in which it's an emergency call out to go back to your original assignment. That's what scram is. As soon as you hear that, you know exactly what to do. So if you were the Miami Heat and you're Jimmy Butler and Spo yells scram and you're playing the Milwaukee Bucks, Joe and Henry, Jimmy Butler would immediately know that scram calls for him to go back to Giannis. And Bam knows to go back to Brook Lopez. Most teams run a scram. We don't run scram. That is a basic tenet of a contingency off of drop coverage. But we don't have either the right coaching or the right personnel to do that. And again, Joe, I'm just going back to this. We do have personnel to run scram. He's just not smart enough to implement it.
They were doing it when Vogel was here.
Vogel ran scram consistently when things went bad. He would hedge, he would scram, he would blitz. Frank knew his personnel inside and out. Absolutely, Henry. Great point.
But they scapegoated him because he didn't make it work with Russell Westbrook. Someone that completely does not at all fit with his scheme. his coaching
No.
style at all.
So Joe, we have a coach now who will not adjust because it's unfamiliar. Old habits die hard, right, Joe? And if you're unfamiliar, you're uncomfortable, you want to stick with what works, or you're just willing to die on the vine your way. And that is not applicable to success in a team environment. You know this. Joe, you run your own business. You make the final call, but you also realize that when called upon, somebody can always go to you and say, Joe, maybe this works a little better, right? Because you're open to the idea of success. You're not willing to be stubborn and die your way.
Yeah, the decision to listen to others is an interesting one because it's a two-way thing here. It's like you get to a point where, well, was I dumb enough not to know that other way? I've been in the thing a long time. How did I miss that? But at the same time, you can't. If it is another option, then you gotta roll with the smart way. If the smart way is your business needs to bring in what it needs to bring in. Ultimately, that's the great decision here. Now, sports is different. Sports is about wins and losses as well. That's what makes it unique. More than that, it's you just it if you're comparing it to business, it'd be like hiring someone who's good at HR for a sales position. Let's say you hire someone because they have the look and the verbiage. And then you look at them and go, okay, so how would you interpret this particular project to a client who is now in a position where they need to decide between you and one other company? How are you gonna close that deal? Now, if you hire someone that's an HR minded type person, they're gonna think regulations. They're gonna think how to dot the I's and cross the T's. They're not thinking about, man, we need Richie to Richie's going to kill this good job. Let's just close this thing however we can so
That's a
that we
good
can get
point.
it done. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, it's not, it's difficult if you don't know what the hell you're doing to identify that. If you're the boss, you're supposed to know both, really. Not all do normally. Let's say you inherit a business from daddy and you didn't really learn the HR side, you didn't really learn the marketing side, but you kind of learned the sales side because that's the easiest place to put a Dunsky and go sell something. That's where the mistake is made because sales is all that matter. Actually, sales that close are all that matter in business, folks. Doesn't matter how smart you are. Doesn't matter if you got a degree at Harvard, you got a doctorate at Stanford. If you can't close deals, you don't get the coffee. You don't get the coffee because the business doesn't work. So, looking at it from Darvin Ham's standpoint, Darvin Ham was an HR guy that was hired to sell. He can't sell dick to his players. He can't sell a system. He can't sell an attitude. He can't sell anything. You have basically brought in a salesman who's not bringing you in any money. And it's time to go. It's time to go. Just to save face a little bit. You're not going to have enough time to bring in the right salesman at this point, folks. It's over. Why? Because you're 19 and 21. What's going to happen now? We're going to get the play in. Yeah, maybe we'll get out of it like we have before. Maybe. And then you got to go on the road 4 times again to try and win a championship with a LeBron tendonitis ankle and an AD run team that it looks like no matter how well he plays or how bad he plays, they're still going to lose. So that's your future at this point, folks. This is what we have to look at. We'll continue to analyze each and every game we get as much as we can. But the reality is the Lakers are a terribly engineered team with a terrible engineer. I should say head engineer. And until this thing gets gutted and restarted, it's not likely going to go any other way. And for the love of God, can you bring in somebody that actually knows how to coach mother effing NBA basketball, please, for once? How many more duds do you have to hire before you figure out that you need to enhance this part of your business? Stop hiring HR guys to sell for your business. You're on mute. And get this crap off the screen. I can't see anybody. I can't hear you, Sean. You're on mute.
Sean, you're muted.
There we go. So since the IST, the Lakers find themselves 21st in defensive rating. By the way, they were top 6 when they were 14-9. 23rd in offensive rating. They were around mid-level, around 18th, 19th. It regressed. 25th in net rating. And Joe and Henry, they've gone from a 6th seed to the 11th seed. And it doesn't look as though things are going to get any better. So you've regressed badly. You're 5-12 since the IST. You were 14-9. Now you're 19-21. You're leaking oil badly. And normally when a car is leaking oil, Joe, one or two things happen. It either catches on fire or it just breaks down. One or the other. Those are your only two options. So, given that, what do you expect over the next couple weeks? Because 5-12 is terrible stretch. That's a huge chunk of the season. That's 17 games. That's nearly a fifth of the whole year. And you're looking up at the Utah Jazz when you were looking down on them 3 weeks ago. So the question becomes, is there any options here, Joe? Because as a company, as an organization, you often hear that buzzword optionality. You need to allow yourself to have options. So what are the options left for the Lakers, Joe, as you see them?
Well, there's 9 games left this month, and I believe the Lakers.
This was the month because it gets harder after this month. Sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
Well, it gets harder, but at least they were going to have some geographical advantage in terms of staying on the West Coast. But what they're going to end up doing is they're going to end up getting themselves in such a huge hole that it's not going to matter. I'm predicting that the Lakers are going to have a disastrous end of this month. It's going to be really bad, to the point where they probably will end up firing Darvin Ham due to the pressure of everything. But it's going to get worse after he's fired because there's no solution to it. They've dug themselves a huge hole. And LeBron, as much as Darvin wanted to save him up, he's not capable, and this team's not capable of withstanding LeBron not playing heavy minutes. He tried. I watched game 1. He tried, but
yeah,
it's not possible. There's not enough.
Game 1 feels 3 years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't enough. He tried, and he was doing it the right way, but he cannot implement any kind of identity to this team where he can combat those 6 minutes where LeBron is sitting down. He can't. The Lakers kind of were playing that way tonight a little. They had AD sitting for 6 minutes. I believe it was in the second quarter, and they actually went up. but it's not a 48-minute fix. It was just a matter of time before the Lakers make stupid mistakes that G League players would make on an NBA team. And then all of a sudden the Jazz hit a couple threes and it's over. It's just watch the game, guys. Watch the game. Watch the games and see how inept this Laker team is. When they lose royally. The other team shoots like 3 shots in a row while the Lakers make 2 out of the 3 boneheaded plays you can think of in that span. It's not just 6 or 9 points. It's like 12 and 15 because the unforced errors are so astronomically bad that it reverses the number. A number that should be Lakers scoring 2 points becomes this fumbling, bumbling disaster. Then the other team gets the ball and shoots a 3. That's a 5-point swing. It's not just a 3. And then that particular player, you know what we're talking about, Vanderbilt, you're talking about disastrous confidence. Now you're done, pretty much. Your enthusiasm, your confidence is in the garbage. You're only just going to make every single mistake you can possibly make in an area where we still need you. You'll make mistakes on defense at that point. It is the most just pathetic display of any kind of confident team you could see. Execution-wise, decision-wise, there's no accountability to any of it. I haven't seen AD just lambaste somebody in anything.
No.
LeBron James doesn't do that. LeBron James, great player. Michael Jordan, shoot, I even heard Sean destroy him today. Well,
I destroyed him as a human being, not as a basketball player.
Well, it all intertwines together.
It does not
separate those things sometimes.
Actually, it does not. I'm not gonna allow you to say that about me and misconstrue what I said.
No. You can't just turn it off.
You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that.
I just did.
You don't get to do that.
You can't turn off being a psychopath in one thing and then all of a sudden turn it off at home. You can't expect a cop to deal with scum all day and then come home and dance like he's in the Sound of Music. I'm sorry,
Joe,
you can't.
Make your point, please.
You should know that better than anybody. You were in that world. You're a first responder. Don't tell me that.
Fair enough.
Where did Sean go? I didn't mean to scare him off.
Yeah, you scared him off.
The thing
is,
he's back.
No, Gerald. You got to talk to. Oh my God, Gerald, you're killing me right now, man. We need to do something about this. Can't have these brownouts all the time.
Oh, Gerald turned it off?
No. We're dealing with a problem with with Streamlabs right now, Henry. Unfortunately, this has become a problem. I want to apologize, everybody, for just going out there.
You got to take your finger off the trigger.
Joe thought you left.
So Henry, to your point earlier, so it's ironic to me that now that the Lakers are leaking oil, and by the way, as much as somebody in the comment section wants to just put this all on LeBron and saying that the Lakers have played better with LeBron off the court, the Lakers are 1-4 in the last 5 games. To your point, commenter, the Lakers are 1-4. So guess what? I got news for you. There's a great quote by somebody who's just been let go from his team that he coached for 24 years. And his name is one William Belichick. Stats are for losers. Winners pay attention to the final score. And Henry, as we get into this, as you mentioned, so D'Lo and Rui are both 2-1 as far as plus minus is concerned. D'Lo is plus 56. Rui's plus 56. D'Lo's plus 55.
Yep.
In saying that, Ham has a short fuse for either one of those players if A, they're not playing within the flow of what he thinks is optimal, or B, he's just not willing to give them the same amount of cut them the same amount of slack as he would say Torian Prince and Cam Reddish, who seem to be able to do everything within their power to play themselves off the court, yet Darvin Ham will keep them on the court. I think that should be a big takeaway here. That is the oxymoron and the disconnect that's happening here.
Do you realize how bad that sounds?
It does. It sounds really bad.
Cam Reddish, the guy who couldn't get minutes in New York, has the longest leash ever here, while Torian Prince, who was outed by Minnesota, and Minnesota did not want to re-sign him, has a long leash here. While I'm not a D'Angelo Russell fan by any means, but D'Lo and Rui, that came in last year and helped the team win, have the shortest leashes. It just explains the frustration from the team. It's just so obvious. This is what I see happening. By mid-February, they're going to end up playing each game. They have to treat like a playoff game like last year. End up, as Joe says, gassing LeBron out towards the end of the year, make the play-in, have to go on the road, and it's going to be the same thing as last year. And we'd be lucky if we make it as far as last year. But as I've told you guys I've joined Playback maybe a handful of times. It's either we win it all or we don't win at all. That's how we are built. There's a reason why
it's all or nothing. We are
exactly.
an all or nothing franchise. That's the standard that's been set, and I mean we're leaning in one direction right now. It's almost as if there's this funnel right now, Henry and Joe, and we're just sinking deeper and deeper and deeper. It's like the Chemical Brothers' best album is "Dig Your Own Hole." I'm sorry for those of you who feel that Surrender is their best album. It's "Dig Your Own Hole," and that's what the Lakers are doing right now. They're digging their own grave. They're digging their own grave, Joe.
Yeah, it's
all of this is self-inflicted, all of it, because we've talked about this.
Here's where this thing. Here's where you can learn. For those of you who are listening, here's something you can learn. And we can draw it back to the discussion too with the Bulls, so it makes sense too. Owners own, executives executive, and players play. I understand that you may want to have some input with the player on certain occasions as a respect thing. However, there's a reason why players are focused on themselves, because that's their job. Their job is to train, be ready to play games, and try to do their best within the team concept. When you start sticking your nose into why did you do this and why did you trade that person, why did you do that, that's when you start creating problems. And especially when it comes to LeBron has had a habit of trying to control his narrative, his coaching choices. And while I know it's a different era, while I know he's played in Cleveland, which is a crap hole, and then again, he did go to Miami where he had stability from top to bottom, and he still wasn't happy there. You know, you can't get much more stability than Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. You know, you probably, looking at it from a bigger picture, you probably should have stayed in Miami. Probably would have been a little bit better in terms of consistency. So with that, Lakers don't have any cohesiveness in this thing.
You're muted.
Henry, as we're trying to get Joe back on here, any final thoughts about what you observed tonight? And has it changed your mind about anything going forward with the Lakers?
I'm going to do my best Joe impersonation. No.
Joe, as we leave for this evening, before we head on out, any final thoughts? Because please finish what you were going to say.
I find myself wanting the season to end again. I didn't think I was going to feel like that after last year. I was actually excited. Even after a sweep, I was excited about the following year. I'm like, okay, good. They're going to have a training camp. They're going to have a summer to draft someone maybe, since we were getting our draft pick back. But it slowly, draft night was the precursor to what eventually is happening here. They took the worst player available at that moment. And to add insult to injury, we have to watch the player picked before that selection and after play integral parts on their team. And it's starting to get depressing.
It is, and not only that, Streamlabs is also getting depressing. And Gerald, if you don't go ape shit on these people, finally, stop dicking around, Gerald. Put your foot down or put it up someone's ass, up Streamlabs. Or we could go to StreamYard, buddy. I'll pay for it. I will pay for it because this garbage will not stand. I apologize, everybody. That's the second time this has happened tonight. I don't have any internet issues. I know Joe and Henry do not right now. This is on Streamlabs, and you guys could kiss my ass. All right? You could kiss my ass right now with your shitty product. Our subs do not deserve this, and our product doesn't deserve this. And Gerald, put your foot up someone's ass, or let's go to StreamYard because I've had enough of this crap.
Poor Gerald, he's probably eating
And with that,
a banana sundae while you were telling him.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm not pissed off at Gerald. I'm pissed off at Streamlabs because they're a bunch of dicks who won't get their heads out of their own ass and help us out. So we're going to StreamYard, Gerald. I've had enough.
Before we go, guys,
And Gerald, don't call me up after the show and tell me, calm down, Sean. Calm down. Nope. Not anymore. Not anymore. Had enough. Streamlabs, this is for you.
With that,
everybody, thank you for joining in for the Lakers Fast Break. I apologize once again for the preemptive brownouts. You guys do not deserve this. We want to give you the best product possible. Whatever, Search. I'm not mad at Gerald. I'm just frustrated at Streamlabs. And with that, thank you, everybody. We'll be here next time, and hopefully it won't be preemptively cut off again. Thank you to Joe, to Henry, everybody. We'll see you later. Lakers lose 132-125. We'll be back.
Later, guys. Thank you.
Later, Henry.
Streamlabs, you can eat a bag of dicks.
They sell those in sex shops, don't they?
You mean those edibles, Joe?
Yeah.